Hi, I'm Dr. Jackson Crawford. I'm a specialist in the Old Norse language, currently teaching at the University of California, Berkeley, previously at UCLA, and as of fall 2017, happy to be returning home to the Rocky Mountains to teach at the University of Colorado Boulder. Back today with another video answering a question from a Patreon supporter. I asked for Patreon supporters questions about 3 weeks ago, and I was obliged with about 70 of these, so I'm still working my way through. Supporter Lumi Uko asks about a curiosity in Old Norse, something maybe that doesn't make sense or a story that doesn't seem to fit. And I thought this might be a good opportunity to talk about the poem called Hyndluljóð, or Våluspá and Skamma. This poem is fairly short. It's found on 2 sides of 1 leaf of vellum in a manuscript called Flateyjarbók. Flateyjarbók is one of the most famous of Icelandic manuscripts, probably the second famous next to the Codex Regius of the Poetic Edda, because Flateyjarbók is not only a physically beautiful manuscript, but also includes the magnified grand saga of the Norwegian king Olafur Tryggvason, who was directly responsible for the Christianization of Iceland. This magnified saga includes many sort of tangential short stories called an Icelandic Þættir that sometimes do and sometimes don't directly relate to Olaf Tryggvason, but often contain mythological information. And in addition to that, there's also some miscellaneous stuff, and the poem in question, which is called Hyndluljóð in that manuscript, is part of the miscellaneous stuff that kind of comes at the beginning of this manuscript. In his prose Edda, Snorri cites stanzas from this poem, but calls it Våluspá and Skamma, the short Våluspá. It's possible that this is originally 2 different poems, and that Hyndluljóð referred originally to the frame narrative of the poem. The poem starts and ends with a story about the goddess Freyja visiting a apparently dead giant woman who is a witch named Hyndla, along with her human lover Ottar. But then this frame surrounds a narrative from the witch Hyndla about Ottar's ancestry, which includes the gods. And the part about the gods is sometimes referred to as Våluspá and Skamma proper, and then that frame narrative as Hyndluljóð. But then it's not clear that these necessarily were originally 2 different poems, so we can kind of refer to them a little bit interchangeably. In this poem, the goddess Freyja appears and speaks the first stanza to this Hyndla figure. She says in stanza 1, "Wake up, lady, wake up, friend, wake up, sister, Hyndla, you cave dweller. The night is dark, we will ride to Valhalla, to the holy hall." Stanza 2 and 3 have an almost prayer-like feeling. "We'll ask Odin to keep us in mind. He gives gold to those who are worthy. He gave Hermod a helmet and armor. He gave Sigmund a sword as a gift. He gives victory to some, money to others, eloquence to many, and common sense to all. He gives waves to the sea, word skill to poets. He gives many the happiness of love." I'm taking these translations, by the way, from my own translation of the Poetic Edda, Stories of the Norse Gods and Heroes, which includes Hyndluljóð or Våluspá and Skamma. I call it Våluspá and Skamma in my translation. She seems to want to go on a road with Hyndla. She mentions the gods' road and also the road of the dead. The giant woman Hyndla has a wolf that she rides, apparently, and Freyja seems to ride a hog. But the giant woman sees through Freyja's apparent kindness, wanting to ride with her, and says, "Oh, you just came here with your lover Ottar, this human, and you want to know, you want to ask me questions for his sake." Freyja says, "No, that's a lie." And then she says, "I want to ask you some questions for his sake." And so she asks about Ottar's ancestry, and the witch traces his ancestry through many famous human kings and heroes of Norse legend. And finally, shading into the gods in stanzas 29 and following, she begins to talk about just some basic mythological information that has reminded some people of Våluspá, the grand poem that is at the opening of the Codex Regius, or Poetic Edda, and which tells of the creation and destruction of the world. Våluspá and Skamma, as befits its name, the short Våluspá, does not give as much information, but it does have some strange hints that are among the weirdest things in Old Norse literature, and that's why I thought this would be an appropriate answer to that question. Among these weird hints, I will mention stanza 35, which I'll read first in Old Norse with Old Norse reconstructed medieval pronunciation, and then from my own translation. Varð ein borin í ordaga, ram auken mjok, rogna kendar, niu boru than, nad gofgan man, jotna boyar, við jarðar throm. In my English translation, there was one born in ancient times, a very powerful son of the family of the gods. He had 9 mothers. Those 9 giant women gave birth to the noble spearmen at the edge of the world. And then in stanza 37, those 9 giant mothers are named, and they include Jornsaksa, who is the mother of some of Thor's children. This figure born to 9 mothers is clearly Heimdallr, and Snorri in his prose Edda actually substantiates this with a quote from a lost poem called Heimdallargaldr, the magic of Heimdallr. Imagine how cool it would have been if that had survived, in which Heimdall says, Niu emek mudra mogar, niu emek sistra sonar. I am the son of 9 mothers, I am the son of 9 sisters. So this is clearly an old tradition. It's clearly Heimdallr who's being referred to, but what on earth does this mean? There have been a lot of interpretations offered, from allegorical or symbolic interpretations to the idea that maybe Heimdallr was reincarnated and each time he was born to a different mother, or perhaps he was given birth to in pieces and assembled later. But in fact, nothing survives in Old Norse literature that tells us exactly what this means. Another mysterious stanza is 41. Loki åt hjarta lindi brendu, vann han hofsviðin, hugstein konu, varð loptur kviðugur af konu Ilri, þaðan era fuldu, flagð hverts komits. Loki ate a woman's heart. He found it half burned on a burning linden tree. Loki became pregnant from that dead evil woman, and from their child come all the troll women. This is clearly a really interesting, weird story, and it fits Loki's character as he has given birth to children. As a mare, for instance, he gave birth to the stallion Sleipnir, which is the son of the stallion Svaðilfari, which belonged to a giant. But this exact story is lost to us, as intriguing as it must have been. There's also the famous stanza 44. Þó kemur annar en motkari, þó þori ek eigi þana nefna. Fóir sjón nú fram lengra, en Odin mun urvi möta. In my English translation, but another will come, a god even greater, and I dare not speak his name. Few can see further beyond the day when the wolf will swallow Odin. Who is this one greater who will come? This has often been interpreted as a Christian reference to Christ coming after the Norse gods to Scandinavia, but it's not clear that that's what's meant. It could be a reference perhaps to after Ragnarok, when some of the gods will come back, such as Baldur, his blind brother Holdr, and the mysterious Hunir. Or it could mean something completely different. It's not explained, and it stands, I think, still as one of the more mysterious stanzas in all of Norse literature. Well, after this, a memory drink is given to Ottar so that he can remember all of his family information that he's learned, because he's apparently going to have a conflict with an individual who may challenge him about his ancestry. And then Hyndla and Freyja continue their spat. Hyndla tries to offer Ottar a poison drink of beer, but Freyja rejects it, and they argue a little bit more. But those 3 stanzas that I cited stand out as some of the most mysterious in Old Norse literature, and so I would pick that as my nomination for something really strange and intriguingly homeless in Old Norse literature. From the University of California, Berkeley, I'm wishing you all the best and thanking you for your interest and questions.